Her name was Anneliese Michel. She was born in 1952 in Leibelfing, a small town in Bavaria, Germany. She was the third of 4 daughters in a devout Catholic family. She was quiet. She was studious. She was, by every account of those who knew her before 1969, completely ordinary. She died on July 1st, 1976. She was 23 years old. She weighed 68 pounds. In the 14 months before her death, Catholic priests performed 67 exorcism sessions on Anneliese Michel. The sessions were recorded on audio tape by the priests themselves. Those tapes still exist. Researchers have listened to them. Journalists have listened to them. Courts have listened to them. What is on those tapes has never been adequately explained. The story begins not with demons, but with a diagnosis. In 1969, Anneliese Michel was 16 years old when she suffered her first seizure. She was diagnosed with epilepsy and prescribed medication. For the next several years, she took that medication and continued her life, finishing school, entering university in Würzburg to study education, preparing to become a teacher. The seizures continued despite the medication, and something else began. She started hearing voices, not vague sounds, clear voices, telling her she was damned, that she would burn, that she was going to hell, and there was nothing she could do about it. Her doctors adjusted her medication, added new prescriptions, referred her to specialists. Nothing worked. By 1972, Anneliese Michel was 20 years old and had been on multiple psychiatric medications for 3 years with no improvement. She was experiencing what her medical records describe as severe depression, episodes of uncontrolled behavior, and a deepening conviction that she was spiritually contaminated in a way that a medicine could not reach. Her family, deeply Catholic, began to consider a different explanation. In 1973, Anneliese began showing what her family and the priests, who would later become involved, described as intolerance to sacred objects. She could not pass a certain roadside shrine without reacting. She could not enter a chapel her university peers walked through without difficulty. She reportedly bit off the head of a dead bird and ate it. Her parents, Joseph and Anna Michel, contacted the local diocese. The local diocese said no. Exorcism in the Catholic Church is not a casual procedure. It requires approval from a bishop. It requires documented evidence that conventional medicine has failed. It requires a formal determination that the case cannot be explained by psychiatric diagnosis. The diocese reviewed Anneliese Michel's case and declined. Her family contacted another priest. Father Ernst Alt observed Anneliese Michel for several months and concluded that what he was seeing was beyond psychiatric explanation. He petitioned the Bishop of Würzburg, Joseph Stangl, for permission to perform an exorcism. In 1975, Bishop Stangl gave his approval. Father Arnold Renz, an experienced exorcist, was assigned to lead the sessions. Father Ernst Alt would assist. The sessions began in September 1975. What happened over the next 14 months is documented on 42 audio tapes recorded by the priests during the sessions themselves. Anneliese Michel spoke in voices that were not her own. Multiple voices. Some identified themselves by name: Lucifer, Judas Iscariot, Nero, Adolf Hitler, Fleischmann, a disgraced Frankish priest from the 16th century. The voices argued with each other. They argued with the priests. They spoke in languages Anneliese had no documented ability to speak. The tapes record sounds that audio analysts have described as not consistent with normal human vocal production. Frequencies outside the standard range of the human voice. Simultaneous vocal layers that suggest multiple sound sources from a single throat. 3 independent audio engineers have reviewed sections of the recordings. None of them have offered an explanation that satisfies the acoustic data. Anneliese herself, in the periods between sessions when she spoke in her own voice, described what was happening inside her as an occupation. Not possession in the Hollywood sense, not a complete replacement. Something more like a crowded room. Multiple presences inside her awareness simultaneously, each with its own agenda, none of them hers. She described it calmly. That was the part that disturbed the priests most. Not the sessions, the calm descriptions afterward. Over 14 months, Anneliese Michel stopped eating almost entirely. This was not anorexia in the clinical sense. It was not a choice. She described food as contaminated, tainted, something the presences inside her would not permit. Her family tried to feed her. The priests tried. She could not. She developed severe injuries to her knees from spending hours on the bare floor in positions of prayer. The tendons in her knees were permanently damaged. She continued. She tore out her own hair. She licked her own urine from the floor. She performed hundreds of genuflections in a single session, to the point of physical collapse. And through all of it, she maintained in her own voice, in her lucid periods, that she knew what was happening to her, that she understood, that she had chosen to endure it because she believed her suffering would mean something. She told Father Renz in one recorded session, "I want to suffer for other people." He did not know what to do with that. He recorded it and moved on. The medical community was not absent from this case. Anneliese Michel continued to see her psychiatrist, Dr. Richard Roth, throughout the exorcism sessions. His notes reflect a physician watching a patient die and being unable to stop it through conventional means. He continued to prescribe medication. He continued to recommend hospitalization. The family declined. Anneliese Michel died on July 1, 1976. The official cause of death was malnutrition and dehydration. She weighed 68 pounds. Her knees were destroyed. She had not eaten in weeks. Her last recorded words, spoken to her mother the night before she died, were, "Mother, I'm afraid." In 1978, Joseph and Anna Michel, Father Ernst Alt and Father Arnold Renz were charged with negligent homicide. The trial lasted several months. The court heard testimony from psychiatrists, theologians, audio analysts, and the priests themselves. The audio tapes were played in court. The verdict was guilty on all counts. The sentence was 6 months suspended and a fine, among the most lenient sentences possible under German law for negligent homicide. The judge's reasoning was explicit. The defendants genuinely believed they were helping Anneliese Michel. What the court did not resolve, what the court explicitly declined to address, was the question of what was actually on those tapes. The judge noted that determining the nature of what the recordings contained was outside the jurisdiction of a criminal court. It remains outside the jurisdiction of any court that has since reviewed the case. There are 3 details from the Anneliese Michel case that do not fit neatly into either explanation, neither the medical nor the theological. The first is the languages. Anneliese Michel grew up speaking German. She had studied some Latin in school. She had no documented exposure to Greek, Hebrew, or Aramaic. During the sessions, the voices speaking through her used phrases in all 3 languages, phrases later verified by linguistic scholars as grammatically correct and contextually appropriate. Phrases that a 22-year-old school teacher from rural Bavaria should not have known. The second is the knowledge. On multiple occasions during the sessions, the voices demonstrated knowledge of events and people that Anneliese Michel had no documented way of knowing. Private details about individuals present in the room, events that had not yet been announced publicly. Father Renz documented these instances carefully. He did not offer explanations. The third is the physical. During certain sessions, Anneliese Michel displayed physical capacities that her physicians could not reconcile with her medical condition. A woman weighing less than 70 pounds, severely malnourished, with destroyed knee tendons, moving in ways that should have been physically impossible. Dr. Roth wrote in his notes after one session, "I do not have a framework for what I observed today." He did not elaborate. He did not need to. Anneliese Michel is buried in Klingenberg am Main, Germany. Her grave became a site of pilgrimage. Almost immediately after her death, people traveled from across Europe and eventually from other continents to stand at her grave. They still do. The Catholic Church has never officially recognized Anneliese Michel as a martyr or a saint. The Church has also never officially repudiated the exorcism. The tapes are held in a private archive. They have been heard by researchers, journalists, and court officials. They have not been released publicly in their entirety. Segments have leaked. I have listened to them. I am not going to tell you what to think about what is on those tapes. I am not going to tell you whether what happened to Anneliese Michel was a medical failure or something that medicine does not have a category for. I am going to tell you one thing. In her own voice, in her lucid moments, Anneliese Michel consistently said the same thing to the priests, to her parents, to her doctors. She said, "I know what is happening to me, and I am not afraid of it." She was 23 years old. She weighed 68 pounds. Her knees were destroyed. She had not eaten in weeks, and she was not afraid. I don't know what to do with that. After everything I've read and listened to in this case, the tapes, the court transcripts, the medical records, the theological analyses, that is the detail that stays with me. Not the voices, not the languages, not what Dr. Roth saw that he couldn't put in his notes. The fact that she was not afraid. Some things that happen to people do not fit inside the boxes we have built for them. Anneliese Michel is one of those things.